Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we cut through the noise and get you straight to the insights that matter. Today, we're tackling a question that keeps a lot of AI builders up at night.
Hmm.
How do you take the incredible, almost dizzying potential of large language models and seamlessly integrate them into the often messy, complex, and utterly unique realities of how a business actually operates?
It's a fundamental challenge, isn't it? You've got these powerful AI capabilities, but then there's the enterprise environment. It has its own established rhythms, its own ways of doing things.
Exactly.
Bridging that gap effectively, that's where the real value lies, I think.
That's right. And for AI builders, this brings us to a core question. Should you build workflows or should you build agents? It's more than just, a theoretical distinction. It's absolutely crucial for harnessing AI effectively within an enterprise.
Absolutely crucial.
So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack these definitions, explore the trade-offs, and then maybe most interestingly, reveal a powerful synergy between these two approaches, showing you how to get the best of both worlds and maybe even glimpse the future of enterprise-aware AGI. Let's get into it.
Sounds good.
And let's unpack this. We're hearing a lot about workflows and agents in the AI space. What exactly are we talking about when we say workflows in this context with LLMs and tools?
So workflows, basically, they're systems where LLMs and other tools are orchestrated through predefined code paths. Think of it like a set sequence of operations that you've explicitly laid out beforehand.
Okay, predefined.
Yeah. And you can represent these in, well, a couple of main ways. One is through imperative code. That's your traditional programming flow, right? You directly control each step, like following a very detailed recipe. The other way is through declarative graphs. Here, you represent steps as nodes, maybe a tool call, maybe an LLM call with edges defining the flow, and then a framework handles the actual execution.
So if I'm getting this right, it's really about structure and predictability. If I run one today, it should behave pretty much the same way tomorrow.
You've got it. That's the key characteristic. Structure and predictability.
Yeah.
If we need an analogy, you could think of workflows as maybe the Toyota of AI systems.
Okay, Toyota. Reliable, consistent.
Exactly. Reliable, consistent, you know what you're getting every single time.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's workflows. Then we have agents. How do they differ from these predictable workflows?
Right, agents. Agents are where LLMs really take the reins, They act with a lot more autonomy. They dynamically direct their own processes.
Dynamically.
Yeah, deciding what tools to use, what steps to take, based purely on the task itself. And often it's iterative.
Iterative how?
Well, the core agent loop is actually quite simple. It gets a task or a goal from a human. Then it plans what to do. It executes that action, reads the results from its environment, the tool output or whatever, and it keeps looping through that plan, execute, read cycle until the goal is achieved.
I see.
Only then does it actually respond to the user.
Okay. So if workflows are the Toyota, what's a good analogy for agents with this open-ended adaptive nature?
Good question. Agents are much more like maybe the Tesla of AI systems.
Tesla, okay. Flashier, maybe. More cutting edge.
Cutting edge, definitely. But more about adaptability. They're built for navigating dynamic situations where a predefined path might not even exist. They leverage the LLM's full capabilities to explore and sort of figure things out on the fly.
That's a really clear distinction. So we have our predictable Toyota workflows and our adaptive Tesla agents. What are the real trade-offs then when you're deciding which one to build? Why would you typically choose a workflow?
Well, workflows are excellent for automating repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
Or for encoding existing best practices, company know-how, that kind of thing.
Right, things you already know how to do well.
Exactly. And because the path is predefined, they generally have lower costs and lower latency.
Yeah.
The LLM isn't constantly making new decisions, right?
Makes sense.
They're also much easier to debug. If something goes wrong, you can usually pinpoint exactly where in the sequence the problem is. And crucially, humans remain in control. Even if your LLM isn't perfect, you can engineer the workflow around it to ensure the task still works reliably.
That seems really important for mission-critical business processes. But then where do agents truly shine? What's the killer app for them?
Agents really excel at researching unsolved problems or handling highly dynamic, unpredictable situations. They take full advantage of the ever-improving capabilities of LLMs because, well, the AI is in control, adapting to new information as it comes.
So less human control, but more potential.
Potentially, yes. There's also less core logic to maintain in that main loop, which can simplify things in some ways. And sometimes you get these these hints of brilliance, where it feels like full automation is just around the corner, especially as new models come out.
Hints of brilliance. I like that. But the Tesla analogy you used, it had a little caveat, didn't it? What's the downside there?
Ah, yes. The caveat, well, the Tesla works well most of the time, but occasionally it might metaphorically take the wrong exit on the highway.
Right. To something unexpected or just plain wrong.
Exactly. And that's when you might really miss your predictable Toyota workflow. The dilemma for builders is that this choice, workflow or agent, it's highly dependent on the current state of LLMs.
How so?
What an agent can't do effectively today might be perfectly achievable with a new, more capable model in just, say, a few months. So it's a constantly moving target for development. You build a workflow today, maybe tomorrow an agent could have handled it.
That sounds like a constant game of catch-up, almost frustrating. So what does this all mean for builders? Do we just pick one and hope for the best, or is there another way?
Well, this is where it gets truly fascinating. You don't necessarily have to choose. There's a core insight that has really shifted thinking on this, and it's surprisingly simple when you see it.
Okay, I'm listening.
An agent, when you give it a task, figures out a series of steps to achieve it.
Right. Plan, execute, read.
Exactly. And that series of steps is a workflow.
Whoa. Hang on. So an agent isn't just acting dynamically. It's essentially generating a workflow on the fly to accomplish its goal.
That's a bit of a mind bender.
Precisely. If you think about it programmatically, an agent takes a task and generates a workflow, a sequence of steps, tool calls, LLM prompts to achieve it. And understanding this unlocks really powerful synergy between the two.
Okay, that is genuinely interesting. So if agents are basically workflow generators, how can we use that? How do workflows help agents, for instance, based on this idea?
Okay, so first, you can use workflows for agent evaluation. Think about it. Companies often have what we might call golden workflows. These are the established best practice ways of doing things, like a company handbook for a particular process.
Right, the official way.
Exactly. So you can evaluate agents not just by their final response, but by whether they followed or maybe intelligently deviated from the right steps, the golden workflow steps to get there.
Ah, I see. So you're evaluating the process, not just the outcome. Precisely. It gives you a much more nuanced way to measure agent performance than just looking at the final answer.
That's a powerful new metric. It's like grading not just the answer on the test, but showing your work. And what about training? Can workflows actually train agents?
Absolutely. You can feed your agents a library of these golden workflows as training data.
How does that work?
Well, it gives you the best of both worlds, really. Your agents can learn to precisely execute those known, established workflows for tasks they've seen before. And they can still use their own reasoning capabilities to compose entirely new workflows or maybe extend existing ones for novel problems they haven't encountered.
So they learn the company's best practices, but retain their adaptability.
Exactly. They learn from the best while keeping that dynamic edge.
Okay, and does it go the other way too? Can agents help us build workflows? I think you mentioned Glean does something like this.
Yes, definitely. Agents can be used to generate workflows from natural language descriptions. A user just describes a task they want to automate.
In plain English.
Yeah, more or less. And the agent proposes a series of steps, a workflow to accomplish it. The user can then look at that proposed workflow, maybe refine it, edit it, combining the AI's dynamic planning with essential human oversight and expertise. And yes, that's basically how Glean's agents work under the hood for building.
Okay, that's useful. But you mentioned the most powerful synergy. What is that?
Right. The most powerful synergy, I think, is using agents as a workflow discovery engine.
Workflow discovery. How does that work?
You deploy an agent maybe in a sort of monitored environment first.
Sure.
You let users interact with it to accomplish new tasks, things you don't have a golden workflow for yet.
Okay.
Then, when the agent performs well, when it successfully completes a task using a sequence of steps, you save that successfully executed sequence.
As a new golden workflow.
Exactly. You save it as a new golden workflow for your company. Over time, you build this constantly growing, self-improving library of real-world validated workflows. And these can then be used to further train and refine your agents. It becomes this continuous feedback loop that builds institutional knowledge directly into your AI systems.
That workflow discovery engine idea, that sounds incredibly powerful, almost like creating a self-improving brain for the enterprise. It raises a fascinating question about the ultimate destination for all this. We talk a lot about general AGI, artificial general intelligence. But how does all this work we're discussing with workflows and agents and discovery, how does it inform the path to what we might call enterprise-aware AGI?
That's exactly the right question to ask. Because while AGI promises these, super intelligent employees, an AGI without context about your specific company, well, it's like hiring a brilliant PhD graduate who still needs extensive onboarding, right?
Right, they're smart, but they don't know how we do things.
Precisely. It needs to know your internal business practices, who to talk to for what, the nuanced ways things get done within your specific organization.
So enterprise-aware AGI is the real goal here for businesses. It's not just generally smart, it's company smart.
Exactly. Company smart. It's a fully onboarded, intelligent system that understands your company's unique ways of operating. Think about it this way. A generic AGI might perform a basic Google search for competitor analysis and give you an acceptable output. How about fine?
Okay.
But an enterprise-aware AGI, it would follow your company's specific protocols for that analysis. It would know to access internal databases, maybe cross-reference with specific customer feedback channels, maybe check recent sales calls.
Things only an insider would know to do.
Exactly. And it would address the key metrics that your executives actually care about. That gap between an acceptable output and a truly great, contextually relevant output that highlights the absolutely indispensable need for internal knowledge and context.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So given all this talk about tasks, golden workflows, training data, how do we actually train these agents with this kind of task-to-workflow data? It sounds potentially complex.
It can be. There are really two main methods that we're seeing emerge. The first one is fine-tuning.
Fine-tuning the LLM itself.
Yes, this involves either supervised fine-tuning, where you train the LLM to mimic a specific input-output behavior, like given this task description, output this exact workflow, or you can use reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF.
RLHF, all right.
Where you train based on ratings or rewards for good versus bad workflows, maybe without having a single perfect golden label for every case.
Okay, and what are the main advantages of fine-tuning for this?
Well, it learns exceptionally well, especially if you have large data sets. It can generalize across different types of tasks, even learn to combine different workflows it's seen.
Sounds powerful. What are the catches?
There are some notable cons. One big one is what's sometimes called the forking problem. You take a state-of-the-art frontier LLM, you spend time and resources fine-tuning it. But by the time you've finished, a newer, better base model might already be out. So your fine-tuned model is instantly lagging behind the frontier, and you have to start the process over.
Ah, right. Constant retraining.
Exactly. And any change to your training data, maybe you add new tools, maybe business priorities shift, necessitates retraining the model. It's a continuous, potentially expensive effort. Plus, it's not ideal for personalization. What if different teams have different optimal workflows for the same basic task? Fine-tuning struggles with that kind of granular customization.
So if we were to use an analogy again, fine-tuning is like building what? Custom.
Fine-tuning is like building highly optimized custom hardware. It's very, very performant for a fixed, specific task, but it's costly and time-consuming to change the requirements once it's built.
Okay, custom hardware. Got it. What's the alternative then, if not fine-tuning?
The second main approach is dynamic prompting through search.
Dynamic prompting through search. What does that mean?
So instead of baking the knowledge directly into the model via fine-tuning, you build a really strong search engine, specifically for tasks and workflows. When a new task comes in, you use the search engine to find the most similar existing tasks or golden workflows in your training data library.
Okay, so you find relevant examples.
Exactly. And then you feed these retrieved examples to the LLM at runtime, right in the prompt, as in-context examples.
Whoa. So the LLM isn't pre-trained on these specific examples, it just sees them as it's generating the response. That sounds incredibly flexible.
It is very flexible. You get this spectrum of control. If your search finds no good matches in your library for a really novel task, the LLM just uses its general creativity to try and generate a new workflow from scratch.
Okay.
But if there's a high confidence match, if search finds a golden workflow for basically the exact same task, the LLM will see that example in its prompt and provide a workflow very, very similar to it, ensuring consistency where it really matters.
Can you give us a concrete example of how that might work?
Sure. Let's go back to that competitor analysis example. Say a user asks, what competitors have we run into recently on sales calls? Your dynamic prompting system searches its library. It might retrieve examples like a golden workflow titled How to Analyze Competitor X, and maybe another one like How to Find Recent Customer Call Transcripts mentioning competitors.
Got it. Relevant pieces.
Right. These get fed into the LLM's prompt. The LLM then sees these examples and composes a new workflow on the fly. Maybe step 1 is search recent call transcripts for competitor mentions. Step 2 is extract lists of competitors. Step 3 is, for each competitor, run the standard analysis workflow. It pieces it together based on the retrieved examples.
That's really neat. So if fine-tuning is like custom hardware, what's the analogy for dynamic prompting through search?
Dynamic prompting is much more like writing software. It might not always be quite as hyper-optimized as custom hardware for one specific thing, but you can change it incredibly quickly.
More agile.
Much more agile, it's more flexible, it offers better interpretability because you can literally see which retrieved examples influence the LLM's output. And it's excellent for learning customized behaviors like those team-specific workflows or for bridging those last-mile quality gaps where requirements seem to change frequently.
Software versus hardware. That's a great way to think about it. Okay, so if dynamic prompting relies heavily on this strong search engine for tasks, how do you actually build this workflow search? Is it just like building any other document search, like for our company wiki?
It starts similarly, yes. The first component, which is what most people think of, is textual similarity. You need to find similar sounding tasks or workflow descriptions.
Right.
And you'd use modern hybrid search techniques for that, things like lexical search, which is your classic keyword matching, combined with vector embeddings for semantic understanding, and then probably some sophisticated re-ranking and maybe late interaction models to really refine those results and ensure you're getting the most textually relevant matches.
Okay, standard modern search stack. That makes sense for finding relevant documents or text. But you mentioned earlier something crucial that goes beyond just textual similarity, especially for enterprise settings.
Yes, exactly. In an enterprise context, pure text similarity often isn't enough. You might find thousands of workflows that look textually similar to the user's request. The real challenge becomes choosing the right one, the one that actually applies best to this user-specific context and needs within the company.
Ah, and this is where authoritativeness comes in.
Precisely. Authoritativeness is the crucial addition. It's not just about what workflows sound similar, but among the similar ones, which is the best or most reliable or most relevant within our specific company context.
Okay, authoritativeness. What kind of signals do you look for there? How do you measure that?
You look for signals like, was this workflow created by someone on the user's team or a close colleague? Does this workflow have a documented high success rate when it's been run before? Was it frequently shared or referenced internally, maybe posted about on Slack or linked in the official knowledge base?
So social signals, usage signals, organizational proximity.
Exactly. All the kinds of signals and tricks you see in sophisticated recommender systems,
Yeah.
they absolutely apply here for ranking workflows. And the key point is, these kinds of authoritativeness signals are very, very hard to directly encode into the LLM itself through fine-tuning.
Right.
Which is why you typically need this separate sophisticated search and ranking system to handle workflow retrieval. It provides that essential layer of enterprise context and relevance on top of just raw LLM capability.
Wow. This has been a genuine deep dive into the practicalities, the real nuts and bolts of building these AI systems in an enterprise. So just to recap, what are the key takeaways for our listeners today?
Yeah, I think the main points are, workflows give you determinism and keep humans in control. Agents are more open-ended, putting the AI more in control.
Yeah.
But the real magic, I think, is in their synergy.
Right, the agent as workflow generator.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
Workflows can evaluate and train agents. Agents, in turn, are powerful engines for discovering new valuable workflows within your organization. And when it comes to training, fine-tuning the hardware approach excels for generalized behaviors with lots of data, while dynamic prompting with search, the software approach, is superior for personalization and rapidly changing needs.
That's a great summary. And as we wrap up, we've explored how much data is needed for fine-tuning, and you mentioned it heavily depends on how out of distribution your specific task is compared to the LLM's existing internal knowledge. This leaves us with, I think, a fascinating open-ended question to ponder.
Yep.
As we move towards this idea of enterprise-aware AGI, the real deep dive for companies won't just be about building smarter models in isolation, will it? It seems like it's more about consciously cultivating and, crucially, codifying their unique institutional intelligence, turning every successful agent interaction, every discovered workflow into a reusable blueprint for future brilliance. It's almost like building a living, breathing company brain that learns and evolves with every single task, making your organization specifically the smartest one in the room. Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.